Will you marry? When will you marry? When will you marry? Will it be this year or next year? Will you be single forever? Jesus, when will you marry? When will you marry Jehovah?
I got so rattled. Like, I got so, as in I was triggered. It's a beautiful process of discovery. I really want to do it right now, you know? The hormones kick in. Let's just be, let's be real. And that's how a lot of people fall into other stuff like pornography addiction, masturbation. At the end of the day, Trey Songz get us feeling some type of way. It's the truth. And marriage is not gonna fill a hole of emptiness in your heart that only God can fill. God saying not now is not him saying no. It's just not now. Everybody is talking about how they have trust issues. But if everyone has trust issues, why don't we want to realize that at some point we were the one doing betrayal of trust? We were the one not living up to the expectations we allowed somebody else to have of us. So hey guys, Happy New Year, happy everything. Merry Christmas. I have not uploaded in so long, but I have tried to record. I've even edited videos and I've just not liked them. So I said, you know what's gonna help ease me into this situation? And it's just doing something that I love. So I'm doing a Q&A on one of my favorite topics, singleness, this season of singleness, being single, being in relationships, all of that jazz. And I used to be like really like upset to say like, oh yeah, I just love talking about being single. I just love talking about relationships and talking about, you know, just fostering better relationships in this life. But now I'm just like, listen, it's so important, it's so vital, not just romantic relationship, friendships, everything. So why not talk about it? Why not talk to you guys about my experience? Sorry, I seem so hyper because I've just drank this peng sweet delicious drink from Marks and Spencer, this pina colada mixed drinks, but it was like non-alcoholic, and I ate fresh pineapple, so I've got so much sugar running through my system that it's like I asked you guys on Instagram and I asked you guys on Snapchat. If you have not been following me, then ping wherever it is. And you guys sent in your questions and some of them are really juicy, some of them really interesting. First of all, if you are new to my channel, then thank you for joining the family. And if you have not subscribed yet, click that red button down below. But let me explain to you kind of my situation. So as of pretty much right now, like close to the date, to be honest, February, I have been single for 2 years. I am 20 years old, so I've been single since just before I turned 19, so I'm about to be 21. Yeah, my last official relationship, my last boyfriend was obviously the one I broke up with before I pursued my season of singleness. And if you want to kind of hear about what I've said about singleness previously, I will link all of the videos in the cards right there and you can go and check it out, because this is something that is so important to me for the simple reason that being single and understanding who you are and coming into your wholeness puts you in a much better position to navigate through life, to navigate through your purpose. And I believe everybody has a purpose and a calling, and to navigate through all of those things, being solid in who you are. And yeah, I think that when I decided to pursue a season of singleness, it was very much so because a lot of the way of how I viewed myself and how I valued myself was hugely stemmed and rooted in how other people loved me, and having like loads of daddy issues and growing up kind of just seeing different dysfunctional images. Romantic love was very much so a distorted image for me. And when I gave my life to Christ, I'm a Christian, hey. When I gave my life to Christ and I was like, God, what do you think about relationship? Because I really desire to have not just a man, not just a boyfriend, but a husband. Like, and God was like, that's great, it's great you have that desire, but if this marriage is gonna work, if this thing is going to not destroy you, because marriage is such a huge responsibility and such a huge kind of ministry, you need to understand my vision for it, and you need to go in there not only prepared but very whole in yourself. And one thing that's very important to me, well, you know what, let me answer the question so that I don't run out of points to say when answering your question. So let's get right into it. During your time of singleness, have you been able to discover your purpose and calling? Yes, I have. I've had a lot of time to have time with God in my times of loneliness and in my times of many evenings where there are no dates and there is nobody to text, and just in general working on myself and being dedicated to work on myself. I've had a lot of time to discover the things I'm passionate about, discover how creative my mind can be and what I can invest my money into and what I can invest my time into. And obviously speaking to God and hearing God's voice a lot clearer, you get direction and you gain kind of headway into what it is you should be doing in this life, but also the next steps for the future. And I think singleness has aided me in discovering my purpose. And yes, in my season of singleness, I have discovered my calling and my purpose. Maybe not the fullest of images, but definitely an image for the next 10 years, which is fabulous and much better than where I was before. What are your thoughts on peer pressure of getting married, being from a traditional and religious upbringing? Whew, okay, I'm gonna make a whole separate video on this, and I might get my friend Jay to come and talk with me on this. Sis, I know you're watching. We gotta talk on it. We were literally talking for 3 hours on the phone about like the pressure for young women, especially like a West African traditional household. I am Ghanaian, whoop whoop. Growing up in that space, you know, going to traditional charismatic churches with people from a similar culture to my parents and I guess to myself, there was this very big push. And even in the mainstream media, no matter what culture you come from, I know also in Asian cultures, there is this huge pressure for young women to get married. Even in European standards, there is a pressure for women to be married. There is a pressure for women's value and women's status to be so closely linked to their relationship status. And obviously you are beautiful and you're a desirable person and you're a person of achievement if a man can recognize that, or if somebody is ready to put a ring on it. And that has resulted in, you know, from a lot of people around me, a pressure to get married. You know, the other day I was sitting down and I was talking to my cousin and I was telling him like, oh, you know, so many of us need to unlearn the toxic relationships and the toxic behaviors that we've been exposed to because of the relationships that we've seen and the way marriage and relationships and friendships have been portrayed. A lot of us need to unlearn and have hope for things that are better. And he was like, yeah, but Courtney, really, when are you gonna get a boyfriend? Because time is running out. When are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get this? When are you gonna do that? And I'm like, I got so rattled. Like I got so, as in I was triggered. Like what? I was so upset. And it wasn't necessarily, I was frustrated because it was more so I don't want a fear of time running out make me run into a marriage because of fear. Because of, well, if I'm not married, it's such a negative thing, so I'll just marry anybody because time is not on my side. That's how a lot of people get stuck in so many marriages which are dysfunctional, so many marriages which break them, so many marriages that lead to children who grow up seeing so many distorted images of what marriage should be. A lot of people are running into relationships with people who they really shouldn't be in relationship with, all because of convenience, all because of fear. That's why a lot of people are not happy in their relationships, and it's sad because my wholeness and my value to society is not increased because I am married. You know, and why don't men get these sorts of pressure? But then again, I do think some men do get that whole, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to get married? But theirs is at a much later stage. And I think if they don't get married, I mean, I don't want to speak for men, but guy, if you're a guy and you are on like your season of singleness, or you are just a young man, what do people say about you being single? Do you think there is a pressure on you to get married? I genuinely want to know. So if you're a young guy and you're watching this, please do comment down below because I would love to know what it is. But personally, those are my thoughts on the peer pressure to get married. How do you feel with being single when everyone around you is in a relationship? By the way, I love you and your channel so much. Thank you so much. Personally, in the beginning, I was very like, oh, everyone's in a relationship and everyone's booed up and all of this looks so nice. All of this looks so romantic and they're not lonely and they have somebody to share all these moments with. And you know, I was having quite in times of loneliness, but also in times of success, I wanted somebody to share that with. But now, having identified how beautiful and how necessary and how important and how as valuable the season of singleness is as the season of courting or a season of marriage, understanding that the season of singleness is as important, if not more important, than being in a relationship and dating somebody. And I don't envy anybody when they're in a relationship, because that has its blessings and that has its curses. But also being single has its blessings and has its curses, and that's what I'm really trying to bask in right now. Yeah, so I don't feel a pressure when anybody around me is in a relationship at all, because I'm doing things which I love. And I think when you're single, you have to be intentional in making sure that you're filling your time and doing things which you love, so that you're not constantly watching people, because you know, in a time where you could scroll on social media and see like 70 couples doing relationship goals and doing holiday bay goals and vacations or whatever, stuff like that. I mean, I would love to do that, don't get me wrong. When I get into a relationship, it's gonna be everything doing vacations and all of that. But in a world where when you're single, it's very easy to kind of compare yourself to that and aspire to that so much that it becomes your only desire and idolize that. It's very important to understand the value of your season right now and not just go chasing after the next season before you miss out on the things you could have learned. How do you cope with being single, loneliness, dating, when you know what you want but it's not coming your way? Every guy who comes is just awful, literally left a bad taste in your mouth. Okay, so how do I deal with being single / lonely? Singleness to me does not equate to loneliness, and I think for you a great thing to watch would be Single Not Alone, which is a sermon in the sermon series by Transformation Church, and it's a sermon given by Pastor Mike Todd, and he is talking, the whole sermon is lit, and most of you guys would have seen it because I feel like it's been on everybody's YouTube recommended. But definitely watch the sermon Single Not Alone and understand that there is a value in being single, and this is something I want to do a video about as well. But I think a lot of us, and I can speak for myself as well, have in the past or even still now idolize marriage and think marriage and being in a relationship is going to solve an emptiness or an empty place or a desire that God cannot fill, or a desire that other things cannot fill for us. And the truth of the matter is there are holes in our lives and in our desires and in our hearts that only God can fill. And if you put something else in there, it may make you feel like, oh yeah, it's been filled with something, but it will not be filled completely. It's like trying to put a circle in a square shaped hole. There will still be gaps here and there, and those gaps will forever be there, and things will fall through those gaps and things will be exposed because of those gaps. So definitely understanding and praying about what it is you need to be filled with and where your wholeness is actually going to come from is something that I definitely believe. And yeah, dating guys who are just not for you, I'm going to also do a video on, as you guys know, I'm proper with, when it comes to this topic, I have bare vim. I'm going to do a video on successfully dating, because I think we tend to get very emotionally involved too quickly when we are dating, and because of that we date people, and when they don't meet our expectations we get a bitter taste in our mouths, like you were saying. But the truth of the matter is you go through life meeting different people all the time, and you shouldn't put a different weight of expectation or a different level of attachment to somebody you just met because they're somebody of the opposite sex, or because there is somebody who you're romantically interested in, because then it's hard to let them go when they don't meet the things that you want or the standard that you keep, and then you end up settling, and that's not what life's about. That's not what we're going for, sis. So yeah, for me, I mean, you know, it sounds harsh to say, but you can be friends with people for sure, but for me, it's I don't think this is gonna work in the way that I like a relationship would require it to work, you know. That's fine, we can still be friends, we can still chill with each other, and you know, whatever. Firstly, I want to say I love you and your videos, thank you so much. Secondly, my question is, how do you find yourself within the season of singleness? How do you really get to know you for who you truly are and accept and love oneself? Now that can be done in so many different ways. However, the best way to get to know yourself and to truly work on yourself is to put yourself in different situations. Put yourself in situations that are outside of your comfort zone. We get caught up in the same routine in this life, being in the same spaces, but being exposed to different things, going to different events, going to networking events and speaking to people, you know, taking yourself out. I've had to cultivate taking myself out on a date, and I went solo holidaying, or I went on a solo trip in September, and that exposed to me how I behave around new people, around a foreign language, around different things, and you discover things about yourself. It's hard for me to explain, and hopefully I'll learn how to express it. But when you put yourself in different situations, it exposes to you parts of yourself that haven't been exercised before, and then you realize your weaknesses, you realize your strengths, and you become more so conscious of the things that you like and things that you dislike. It's a beautiful process of discovery. It's a beautiful process of understanding that we're multifaceted people, and until we put ourselves in situations that expose to us parts of ourselves that aren't exposed in our daily lives, that aren't really utilized in the convenient spaces that we have, we won't really know the full extent of what we're capable of. Also, putting yourself in new opportunities. Maybe it involves taking a course, what else, learning a new skill, learn how to use, I don't know, but doing stuff that you are interested in and passionate about. And yeah, reading really makes you think about stuff, and read a lot. The world, the internet is so full of different things that you can explore. I've started to even watch different videos here on YouTube. You never know, you might be fond of something. I've been watching so many science videos here on YouTube. I study humanities, and I've always studied humanities, and that's all I've cared for. But apparently I have a deep interest in science experiments and just watching them. I don't care for the sciencey bit, I just like to watch them. And the other day I was watching a video about octopuses and how octopuses are so, listen, you may think I'm mad, but it's been fun. These are the things I have to fill my time with, so that I don't start to feel lonely or start to feel like, God, this is it, I've ended my season. Because there's so much more to discover about God, there's so much to be discovered about myself, and there's so much that I could be doing for other people as well. Also helping other people and putting yourself in situations where you can be somebody's, I don't know, mentor, you can be a good friend, you could be somebody who gives advice to people, you can start a YouTube channel, you can loads of different things. So finding yourself definitely comes with putting yourself in different opportunities and different circumstances. How do you cope with feeling lonely, as I've discussed, but also feeling like you want to end the season? Now, for me, the season of singleness doesn't have like a determined beginning and end. I think even now I'm single, but I could still start dating somebody. I could still start being like, okay, you know what, we're not courting, but we go out on dates, we're trying to get to know each other, or even we're courting, but you're still in a season of singleness. You're still in a season of, we haven't been married to each other, and so therefore we are still two individual people, we are yet to become one. So I'm still pursuing my singleness, and my eyes are still more focused on God and focused on my line as an individual. When you decide to commit, when you decide to put a ring on it, sir, that's when we're going to be running on the same track. This season ends quite naturally. The season will end not just when I feel ready, but for me an important thing is God giving me the go ahead to be like, yeah, you know, give this one a chance, or give this person a chance. And you don't want to run out of your season of singleness because you are lonely, or because you are fearful of time, like I said, or because you are being pressured by other people, because other people are not going to be there when these cracks in your foundation are exposed, because marriage exposes your singleness, and marriage has exposed, or being in a relationship has exposed that insecurity. Who is going to have to deal with that? You. And unfortunately also the person who you're with is going to have to deal with that. So understanding that, you know what, this takes time. And I think because we're a generation that is so used to running and so used to doing things so quickly and so used to wanting things now and wanting to get to the finish line, we forget that life is, first of all, let's forget about eternity. Let's talk about the time we have on earth. Life is a 90-year situation. You know, we're only 20. I'm yet to even have lived a quarter of my I'm yet to even have lived like a quarter of my life, really. Why should I rush? Because this is another thing, this is a top tip that really got me. Once you're married, you're married. The season of singleness has ended, unless you get divorced or God forbid your partner dies. This season of singleness, it's pushed to the side, it's gone, it's in the past, and you're never returning to it. But also being aware that you are in a season where your primary concern is yourself. Your primary concern is being the most efficient and most productive person who you can be in your life and in people's lives as well. And when you are conscious of that and when you put that at the forefront of your mind and you're very intentional with pursuing that, when you start talking to a guy in that way, or when you start talking to people in that way, or when people are detracting from you, or when people are just not up to kind of handle the weight of who you are, it becomes very much so easier to notice things like that, and it becomes easier to let people go because it becomes a detriment to the person you have invested and built yourself to be. And this is not to say put yourself on some high pedestal and become pompous and become arrogant and be untouchable, but it's to say recognize where you are and recognize the amount of investment you have put in yourself. I always use this analogy when I'm talking to my friends. If I am continually investing in myself as an asset, I know I'm not just gonna put myself and my vision and what I carry in the hands of just anybody, in the hands of somebody who's going to rip it apart and not identify its value. That doesn't mean I carry myself with my head held high, because everyone's on a different sort of journey. It's me being self-aware, it's me being emotionally intelligent, it's me exercising self-care to discipline myself to know that, listen, some things you have to let it go. As much as you want it, as much as you want to be with them, as much as you love them, maybe you will meet them at another stage. But as of right now, are you doing the best to protect the vision? Are you doing the best to protect your heart? Are you doing the best to protect your promise? Is that what you're doing or not? That was a long answer. I don't even know if I answered the question, but yeah. How do you deal with / bounce back from sexual temptation? This is a real one, I ain't gonna lie to you. Obviously I'm single, I ain't been with a man. I ain't no virgin, but okay. I have not been with a guy in 2 years, and you get those urges, you get those feelings of, okay, God, I can't let's be real, I can't be with, I'm not with anyone right now. I haven't got a physical boyfriend, and even if I did have a physical boyfriend, I wouldn't want to, have sex before marriage or whatever. I'm on this road of celibacy, hence this ring. But the body is the body, God, my flesh. I really want to do it right now, the hormones kick in. Let's just be let's be real. The hormones kick in and it'll be one night and you're just thinking, wow, God. And that's how a lot of people fall into other stuff like pornography addiction, masturbation, all these other things that our generation really does deal with, and I have dealt with in the past. I have no shame in saying that. And first of all, I want anybody who's watching to understand that there is no condemnation. There is a road to come back from that, and to overcome that. There is hope for you. You don't need to be bound by all of these other things. Sexual immorality will not bind us in Jesus' name. There is hope, but also practical things that I have done is past a certain time. First of all, has anyone noticed that Instagram's explore page has been coming more and more like explicit and more sexual? I don't know if the algorithm just targets me or if it's a real thing, but if you've noticed, then you've noticed. One thing for me is I stopped scrolling on social media past a certain time. You have to enforce that self-control and that discipline, and it is a fruit of the spirit. And also, just not scrolling at certain times, not listening to certain music at certain times, because at the end of the day, Trey songs get us feeling some type of way. It's the truth. Yeah, understanding that, okay, God, I'm feeling the urge right now, I'm just gonna sleep, or I'm just gonna go take a cold shower, or I'm gonna play some gospel music, or I'm gonna watch a sermon, and being really intentional to fight this, but also praying, and also, acknowledging that, yeah, I am being tempted, but I'm gonna face this, devil, I'm gonna come back at you with this, and this, I am not bound to my flesh. I am not gonna let my flesh control me. This is only a temporary satisfaction that has an eternal ripple, and this is not going to ruin your life, but these are things that day in after day we need to overcome, not just for our sake, but for the sake of generations to come after us, and for the sake of being an inspiration and to be a light to the people who are around us. We can't be doing things in darkness. People who have integrity are the same as they are outside as they are inside and in their private spaces, and it is something that I have also dealt with. And I think I do need to pluck up the courage to kind of do a conversation about that, but understanding that you can bounce back from it and getting scriptures to back you on it and putting practical things in place and restrictions in place, which mean that you won't do it, but also getting accountability with people and letting people know, I struggle with this, or I'm struggling with this right now in this season, and I need you to be that person who I can call, or I can be very transparent with when I do fall, or who will, give me words of encouragement, or who is also, somebody somebody who has overcome this and can help me. And also, you know, not being around people who are going to encourage that sort of thing in you, especially if you're trying to move away from it. But sexual temptation will definitely come, but sexual sin and trying not to fall into it, that's pretty much what I previously said. Do you believe in love? Yes, I do. I believe in love so much. I believe in loving God. I believe in God's love. I believe in God being love. I believe in loving myself. I believe in loving my friends and loving my sisters and loving my parents. And I think love is such a hard thing to define, and it's a hard thing to, it's just so big. It's more than a chemical, it's more than an emotion, it's more than a feeling. It's such a large force that it's hard to define and box into a sentence. But I do know that I believe in love that leads to sacrifice. I believe in love that leads to commitment. I believe in a love that leads to change. I believe in a love that leads to redemption. I believe in a love that leads to life. I believe in a love that is protective. I believe in a love that is wise. I believe in a love that is full of passion and full of love. Obviously, yeah, I believe in love. I believe in love a lot. Is being single the same as being in a season of singleness? Kind of, and not really. You can be single, but being in a season of singleness really puts emphasis on your intentionality to get to know yourself and to pursue your wholeness and to pursue being the best individual you can be and pursuing purpose and pursuing calling, along with not having a partner. But then you can also be courting someone, you can be in a relationship with someone and still be in the season of singleness. I'm a firm believer in I am single till I am married, honey. So yeah. Do you feel like having a season of singleness is important before marriage? Yes, yes, yes. Yes. I remember joining my church and my pastor and his wife telling me that even though they're married, they are still pursuing being good single people. That like, and this is another thing in that transformation series that really stuck out to me, that like marriage only exposes your singleness. It will only expose how whole you are, how set you are, how sensible you are. There are some things I can master in my singleness. There are some things which marriage will expose, and I want them to be sorted. As much as I can have control over them, I want that to be sorted. And the battles that I'll be fighting in marriage, I want it to be only the battles of married people and not battles that I should have kind of conquered in my singleness. So I think it is definitely very, 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 very important. My phone is frozen. Very, very important. What has your biggest lesson been in your season of singleness? I have learned so much. I can't even explain in just one point, but I have learned so much being single and intentionally pursuing singleness and intentionally pursuing wholeness and pursuing God and being pursued by God and understanding things about relationships and understanding God's vision for marriage as well. But I think the main principle that I have learned is it is good, like it's fine to desire marriage. It's not good to idolize a marriage though, and marriage is not going to fill a hole of emptiness in your heart that only God can fill and that you can fill whilst being single. It is something that is added onto you. It's not something that is the foundational principle of who you are and all that you can be. But also, everything has a season. Ecclesiastes 3. Everything has a season, and if you rush out, like there is no problem being married, and in God's head for you, his vision might be that yeah, you will get married, but you do not want to be running so much fast out of being single because of fear of it that you run into being married or being in a committed relationship or being in a relationship before its season or before you're ready to give that much love and that much commitment. You don't want to run into something and inherit something and go into a season before it's time, because that's when you end up with someone like the prodigal son, who thought that I can get this anytime, I can inherit something anytime. But when you inherit something out of season, it will destroy you. You won't master it like it's intended for you to. And also that these kind of all link together, but God saying not now is not him saying no. It's just not now, and he knows best. His timeline runs completely different to my timeline. But also his perspective is completely different to my perspective, and he knows what I'm going to go through when I'm 50, and he knows what I'm going to go through when I'm 75. And so for him to be able to tell me, Courts, don't run too fast, halt right now, okay, this is not where you should be going right now, this is not what your focus should be on right now, focus on these other things, cultivate these other things, strengthen these other things before, or let us strengthen these other things before you go running for that thing. Because ultimately, if you also had the perspective that I had of your whole life, that's what you'd need to be doing too. So really just trusting that God's timing is perfect. How to overcome or counteract loneliness. This was sent by the lovely Mo Chunks. Go and check her channel. Counteracting or overcoming loneliness for me has been a journey of understanding that you can fill your time up and you can fill your life up with other things that will bring you just as much joy. Right now I'm in some of the best seasons and best times of my friendships that this was something I had never even thought about before, but my friendships are so strengthened. I have friends that have grown so close to my heart, and being able to pray for people and people being able to pray for me, it's like, this is crazy. And these are aspirations I never had for those sorts of relationships, because my time was always so focused on being with somebody romantically that I neglected the level and the beauty in other relationships that are not romantic that I have in my life. So these are the best seasons of friendships, and having around you like-minded people who are also appreciating the beauty in this single season is nothing worse than trying to be single and having everyone around you reminding you why being single was such a curse. Spending your time doing other things, spending your time investing in other people, spending your time working on projects, spending your time working on things that rile up just as much passion and just as much love in you. It shifts your focus from romantic love, and also just working on your other relationships, having friends around you. Like I said, my friendships are at some of the most amazing places it's been. What's it like being single at uni? You know what, I thought that this would be really hard, like being single at university, because everyone's jumping in from relationship to relationship. But also I think when you realize what you want out of a relationship and how highly you regard a relationship, seeing other people jump from relationship to relationship, you don't really compare yourself to that much, and you don't really see the hype in it. A lot of people aren't in like committed relationships in university. Like, some people are, but a lot of people are just having fun. What 3 things have you seen improvement in during the season of singleness so far? Girl, my confidence is so high. Like I said before, a lot of my self-worth, a lot of my view of myself was invested hugely in a lot of other people, and now understanding where I should get my confidence from and where I should root my identity, and also being very intentional with loving myself and spending time on myself and improving myself, means that having time to be selfish kind of with your time has just skyrocketed my love for myself. Another improvement I've seen is my emotional stability. Being in relationships, if you guys have watched my story times, I have had tumultuous relationship after tumultuous relationship, okay? But being in a stable sense of, you know what, there ain't nobody out there who's gonna have me tripping, girl. Means that my mental capacity has actually been okay, or I've allowed other things more worthwhile to kind of shake me and rattle me a little bit. My relationships with other people, I feel like I am more a better friend, I'm a better sister now, I'm a better daughter. I joined a church, I'm better now in trying to join communities, whereas before I tried to isolate myself. And these things aren't romantic related, but they are issues of singleness. What are some of the common misconceptions people have about being single? That being single means that you must be lonely, that being single is an indication that you're just not, there's something wrong with you, that you're not fit to be with somebody else, that people don't want you, that the season of singleness is only a time to be preparing for marriage, and that it is not a season that you want to stay in, that you do not desire to stay in, but it's a season you just have to go through, so you go through it reluctantly. Loads of misconceptions. This one's from Chrissy Milan. Hey girl, check her out on YouTube as well. Do you think people make too big a deal out of singleness and relationships? This is a very good question. I think people make too big a deal out of romantic relationships and out of like being married and being not just being married, but wanting to be married and wanting to be with someone. I think people make too much of a big deal of that. In today's generation and today's society, there is too much of a I need to be with someone, I need to be with someone attitude, or it would be so lovely to be with someone, I need to be with someone to make me whole. I think there's too much of that. Relationships are so important. Our whole lives depend on relationships, the way we relate to other people, because no man is an island. You get through this life dealing with people. You get through this life investing in people and people investing into you. So your relationship with people, your family, your friends, your teachers, the people that serve you at restaurants, the people that whether your lecturers, whether you have brief encounters with them or long encounters with them, the people at your church, or the people who come around you to date you, or the people you are married to, your relationships with people drive your life. That's, if we're being honest, if you really look around, everything depends pretty much on relationship. People don't make enough emphasis on how important relationships are, and how important stable relationships are, and how important the exposure to stable relationships is. But also, people don't realize that a lot of the reasons why our friendships don't go right, a lot of the reasons why our relationships are not going right, our romantic relationships, a lot of reasons why we can't stick to particular communities, the reason why our friendship circle is changing every 3 years, the reason why we can't seem to stick and have a good time at any job, the reason why we want to be entrepreneurs so bad and we don't want to be in a community working with people, the reason why we can't trust people with our money, the reason why we don't want to build a relationship or build a business with somebody else is because we don't want relationship with people, because we are so broken in our view of relationship just as a generation. And a lot of the reasons why is because it is all singleness problems. It's all because our singleness has not been conquered, our singleness has not been invested into, and relationships just expose how good or how bad your singleness is. And so I found that when I placed importance on me intentionally being a good single person, and not single in the sense of I'm just not with anybody, but I'm really realizing that my worth is not in other people's view of me, and I need to cultivate and improve and strengthen some aspects of myself, my discipline, my patience, my self-control, focusing on yourself and taking a mirror and really analyzing yourself for a second. That really improves your relationships, and I feel like nobody is making is emphasizing how important that is. Because one thing that I've noticed, and one thing that I was telling my friend Renee, you guys know Renee, our friend Renee, was I feel like everybody is talking about how they have trust issues. Everybody has trust issues. Everybody has been hurting, or everyone has been hurt, and everyone is putting up a fence because, you know, if you do one thing, you're getting cut off. But if everyone has trust issues, why don't we want to realize that at some point we were the ones doing the mistrusting? We were the one doing betrayal of trust. We were the one not living up to the expectations we allowed somebody else to have of us. We have let people down in the past. I know I could sit here and say I have not been the best friend at times. I have not been the best daughter at times. I have not been the best sister at times. A lot of us don't want to admit that. We want to point the finger to everybody else and how they let us down, but we don't want to realize that we are those people. We are the people who are hurting people, and we are the people being hurt, and both of those sides need to be dealt with. Because if we just want to put all our fences up, like I say, relationships are what get you through this life, and whether you try to avoid it or not, either you have to live as a hermit, or you have to have functional relationships, or you have dysfunctional relationships, and see how far that gets you. So singleness is very important, relationships are very important, but there is too much emphasis placed on romantic relationships. But yeah, so that's the end of the video, that's the end of the Q&A. It is quite a long one, I know, but please do sit through it because I really enjoyed filming it. And I am going to be doing more videos on singleness. I might dedicate like an entire time to kind of talk about it with you, because I think it's so important and it's like one of my passions to talk about. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Please check out everybody who I shouted out in this video. Also, please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Please do watch any of my past uploads, and I will be uploading much more frequently. I'm basically back. Life is freed up a bit, and yeah, love you guys so much. Please do subscribe if you have not, and like this video, and comment down below your thoughts on the season of singleness and on singleness, and I will talk to you all later. Stay blessed, take care.